Let me paint you a picture. A woman sitting in the driver's seat of her own van, shot twice, a weapon in her hand, van locked from the inside. Police show up, look around, and write in the report. She decided to end her days. Case closed. Except it wasn't, because the more investigators dug into this, the more everything about that scene stopped making sense. The angles were wrong. The pattern was wrong. And the man who made that 911 call sounded like he was ordering pizza. This is Tiffany Valiante, 32 years old, mother of two, and the center of one of the most genuinely confusing cases I've ever researched, where two expert doctors reached completely opposite conclusions about how she lost her life, where a man was sentenced to 99 years in prison based largely on 4 words he said on a phone call. Stay with me, because nothing about this is simple. Before we get into what happened, you need to know who Tiffany was, because she was a lot more than a victim. She was warm, loud, the kind of person who lit up a room. But even in the middle of her own messy, complicated life, she was always thinking about how to help someone else. She created a Facebook group called MAZA, Moms Helping Moms. Thousands of mothers joined, supporting each other through the chaos of parenthood. Tiffany built that from nothing. Now her husband, Jason Valiante, they met when Jason was fresh out of a painful divorce. His first marriage had ended because of a betrayal that didn't just hurt him, it defined him. It became his deepest fear, the wound he carried into everything that came after. Tiffany was still technically married when they met. Her marriage was already falling apart. Eventually, she and Jason got together and they moved fast. Married, then a baby within the first year, then a second child. Jason also had a 14-year-old son from his first marriage. 3 kids in the house. From the outside, beautiful family. But underneath, things were starting to crack. Jason later told investigators that for months before she passed away, something felt off. She seemed distant, disconnected, and she'd started drinking more. Not casually, but noticeably. 2-3 beers a day sometimes, checked out in a way that worried him. What he didn't know yet was why. Because Tiffany had been confiding in her best friend Lindsay, and what she was telling Lindsay was this: she wanted out of the marriage. She had genuinely decided she was done. She'd gotten herself a job to start saving money. She was planning to leave, take the kids, build something on her own terms. Lindsay asked her, "Are you scared of how Jason will react when he finds out?" And Tiffany said, "I'm not afraid of what he'll do to me. What scares me is hurting him. Because no matter what happened between us, he's the father of my kids. Not afraid of Jason, worried about his feelings. Keep that in your mind as we go forward." On that final day, May 2nd, 2017, Jason came home before Tiffany and opened their shared family computer. He found messages. His wife had been seeing someone else. His worst nightmare. Again, the exact thing that had destroyed his first marriage happening again. He called Tiffany immediately, confronted her over the phone, told her to come home. Tiffany, driving back, called her mom. She told her everything. Yes, there was someone else. Yes, Jason knew, and she was going home to face it. Her mom said her voice was calm, not panicked, not falling apart. "Be careful," her mom said. They hung up, and that was the last time her mom heard her voice. Tiffany arrived home, and Jason was waiting outside. He refused to let her in the house. They stood in the street for over an hour, arguing, talking. But at some point, Tiffany said, "At least give me my work clothes so I can go in tomorrow." Jason went inside, grabbed her things, brought them out, Then he looked at her and said this conversation was over. He turned and walked toward the front door. That's when he heard the first shot. A scream. Then a second shot. He says the van was locked. He called 911. When police arrived, Tiffany was in the driver's seat. She had passed away, her own legally registered weapon in her right hand. The van doors locked from the inside. The officers processed the scene, and within hours they filed their reports. She decided to take her own life. But here's where it all starts to fall apart. Problem 1, 2 shots. One on the right side, one on the left. That combination is almost unheard of in these types of cases. Not impossible, but deeply unusual. Problem 2. Tiffany was right-handed, but one of the wounds came from an angle that would require the left hand. For a right-handed person, that makes almost no sense. Problem 3. The blood. The door beside Tiffany, which was supposedly locked shut right next to her, had no blood on it. Not a drop. If that door was truly closed, that's physically inconsistent. The medical examiner assigned to the case, Dr. Valerie Green, looked at all of this and put it in writing. Manner of passing. It was a crime. That changed everything. Fresh eyes. No conflicts. The first thing the new detective did was ask where the van was. It had been returned to the family 24 hours later, and then professionally cleaned. Jason said he didn't want his children to find something that would haunt them forever. Understandable, maybe. Suspicious, definitely. He was asked to take a polygraph. Jason agreed. The examiner flagged his answers as deceptive. Now, I need to be honest here. Polygraphs are genuinely unreliable. They measure stress, not truth. The polygraph proved nothing, but it added weight to what was already building against him. Jason was arrested exactly 1 year after she passed away. His defense attorneys were immediately clear. There is zero physical evidence against our clients. November 2022. The trial finally began. The prosecution's case rested on the medical ruling, the missing blood on the door, and Jason's 911 call. The defense came at it hard. They brought in their own expert who said, with complete certainty, she decided to end things herself. They pointed to something the prosecution couldn't ignore. Tiffany's drinking had escalated. Her other relationship had recently fallen apart. She was being rejected from every direction. And the day before she died, she had scheduled her very first therapy appointment. That detail, I'll be honest, I don't know how to read it. Is a person booking therapy a person who wants to live, or a person who has finally reached the point where they can't carry it alone? Then came the DNA bombshell. The specialist who examined the weapon found no female DNA on it whatsoever. The DNA present on the weapon belonged to a male. Jason took the stand. He spoke about loving Tiffany, about being destroyed by her loss, and then he admitted what he said to Tiffany during their argument. He told her something brutal, a cutting, deliberate wound designed to make her feel what he was feeling. And then he said, I've never stopped wondering if those words were what pushed her over the edge. I think about it every day. The prosecution heard something different. They heard a man who admitted he intended to cause pain. The jury deliberated. They zeroed in on one moment, the dispatcher asking where the weapon was. Jason's answer, it's right here next to her. Next to her. But when police arrived, she was holding it. It wasn't beside her, it was in her grip. If the van was locked and Jason never opened the door, how did he know where it was exactly? The jury came back. Guilty. Jason Valiante was sentenced to 99 years. His lawyers are working on an appeal. They believe the conviction was built on emotion rather than evidence. Maybe they're right. Here's where I land on this. I don't know what happened on May 2nd, 2017. I know a doctor said one thing and another said the opposite. I know there was no blood on the door. I know Jason sat next to her when it was in her hand. And I know that 2 children are growing up with no parents at all. Whatever the truth is, that is the real tragedy here. 2 kids who lost everything in one night. Tiffany Valiante deserved better. Her children deserved better. Tell me in the comments, what do you think actually happened? I read every single one. And I'll see you in the next one.